Good morning. Here we are again with our videos on communications marketing. Today we have the pleasure of hosting Tish Van Dyke, the Global Food Chair at Edelman. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, as always.
So, as you know, 2018 will be the year of Italian food in the world, and this was declared by the Italian Ministry of Agriculture and Food together with the Ministry of Tourism. How can food and beverage brands leverage this event to evolve within the communications marketing arena?
So it's a great question, Anna, and such an exciting time, right, for Italian food and beverage. When I think about Italian food and Italian culture, so much a part of that is the sharing, the idea of sharing the table, sharing the experience of food with friends and families and loved ones. So I think when we think about this year ahead, this year of Italian food in the world, I think the most important thing companies and brands who get involved in this think about not only sharing their brands and sharing the specialness of the food and the culture, but the stories of sharing and taking those stories and turning them into content and sharing them with the audiences that you're trying to reach is going to be very, very important. But it's a great year, and I think it's not just for Italian food companies, but food companies outside of Italy who can be part of this big celebration.
Talking about communications marketing, by definition, it means earn-centric and social by design. And how do you think food and bev brands can adapt to embrace this evolution of the industry?
Well, I think it's another great question, of course. I actually think food and beverage was really the original communications marketer, right? Because what food and beverage is all about is it is about the story and the culture behind the foods that we eat, and then sharing those stories with others as we share the table with our friends and family with whom we make meals and share the experience of food. So to me, it's very much, your question and how you ask it. I think food and beverage lends itself to communications marketing. And when I think about where the world is going and how we're talking and telling and sharing stories today, we are doing that more socially than ever before. And that's because of the way the media has changed. So it's imperative for all of us to create that kind of content that allows us and our clients, obviously, and food and beverage companies in general, to tell at the core, it has to be a story that is engaging and resonates and tells all the information about the foods we eat, where they come from, how they're grown, produced, etc. But and turn those stories into content that is relevant and shareable and resonates with the audiences we're trying to engage.
We saw brands breaking somehow geographies and moving here and there, and also going to awards.
Yes.
So how do you see food and beverage companies or brands stand out in the communications marketing?
Well, we sort of live in this era where there's so much transformation happening within the food and beverage industry. And I think the word we always are hearing these days is disruptor, right? We talk to companies, we talk to people who are engaged in the industry, and they are all wondering what's happening with the disruptors, or how do we act more like a disruptor, or how can we take advantage of being a disruptor. So disruption is a big part of this transformation that's happening. Those companies who I think are being, are the most successful in this era of disruption are those who are focused on three key things. One is the benefits of health, the health in the foods. And this is something that consumers are craving. They want their foods to be healthier. They're starting to understand that the foods they eat have an impact on their health and the health of the loved ones for whom they're sharing the foods, or with whom they're sharing the foods. And then I think sustainability. I think we have now moved into an era where consumers are really starting to understand the impact of the foods they eat and how that impacts the environment. Focusing on and telling stories about sustainability, and the role that sustainability plays in the foods we eat is going to be absolutely critical. The third thing is transparency. The disruptors who are most successful are those who embrace radical transparency. So they're not just saying, hey, our food is healthy and hey, our food is more sustainable. They're showing how by being very open and honest about what's in the food, how the food was made, how it was produced, how it was packaged, how it was taken from factory or processor to the distribution center to the grocery store shelves, and then finally how it's marketed and who it's marketed to. Things like labor play into this, animal welfare, some of those key issues, GMOs and other things, but radical transparency. So 3 key things to think about with disruptors. It is healthy foods that we consume within planetary boundaries, but also that are open to transparency and telling their stories in a very transparent ways and then acting upon them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.